Yo, I just ran my first ever road marathon, and as a finance nerd, I thought I could draw some conclusions between the pain and suffering that I went through to complete that race and what it looks like to save and invest your money well, the kind of general lessons you learn in life through doing these kinds of things, and how they kind of transfer to each other. And I don't mean that all in a positive way. Like, I struggled through this marathon. I barely made it under the cutoff time. It was basically a death march. But I think that has some potential to teach us stuff too. So let's talk about it. 9 weeks ago, I signed up for the Lost Dutchman Marathon, which runs from the Superstition Mountains in Apache Junction, Arizona, back towards Mesa, and it kind of skates through some neighborhoods and things like that, but it was sold on this premise of it being so beautiful in the morning. You wake up, you go to this race, and there's a sunrise of the beautiful Superstition Mountains, and there's campfires to keep you warm, which it was very cold and very windy. There's food and drinks and breads and people you can hang out with, and the whole experience is so beautiful. But let's rewind to 9 weeks before that, whenever my friend and I signed up for this marathon. We are not road runners. We are not marathoners. We are not in shape enough to do this kinds of thing. And we knew that going into it. But at the same time, we also knew that we could do our best and probably salvage the race and have a decent day out of there. And we knew that going into it, but we also hoped that we could kind of salvage the day and have a decent experience still. It was less than decent. So learn from our mistakes here. And that's the first thing that I should have done that I didn't do that caused me to basically fail at this marathon. And if you do it correctly, it will make you succeed with money. And that's remembering that consistency beats intensity. I only had 9 weeks to try and cram marathon training into. It just wasn't enough time to go from a sedentary office worker to a marathoner. And similarly, we can't just build wealth overnight. We can't just take a bunch of risks and be like, you know what? By the end of next month, I'm going to have $1 million. I'm going to start with 10 grand, work my way up to $1 million. I'm going to day trade and options trade and crypto trade and do all the crazy things and just make it happen for myself. It will be a train wreck. Is smaller, more consistent investments over time, whether that's your running or your money, to yield way better results long-term that are more repeatable results. Lesson number 2, the right gear matters, but it isn't everything. When it comes to running, I bought new shoes, I've got nice running socks, and I've got a running watch and a chest rate strap, heart rate thing, and I've got all the stuff that I need in theory to run a decent marathon time. But that didn't save me. I still ran a 5:52 marathon. The cutoff was 6.5 hours. I was right there up against the wall. I saw the chase vehicle coming and cutting people off and saying you're out of the race, and I was trying to beat them. And the same thing applies to our money. Just because you've got a great investment tool, whether that's some kind of investing membership thing that you pay for or just an investing service that you use, it doesn't substitute for good financial habits. It doesn't substitute for patience and consistency over time. It's not a magic bullet. And a philosophy that goes along with that is number 3, which is your progress isn't straightforward or really linear. When it comes to running, it really feels like fits and starts. Like, am I even getting more fit? Is anything happening to my body besides me feeling sore? What is going on that's making me a better runner? And it can be really difficult to measure until you've done it for a really long time. I feel a similar way with money, but with money, it's a lot more heartening over time because we end up with compound interest. We don't experience compound interest when it comes to running. But when you're investing your money for the first 1 to 5 years, it probably feels like how I feel as a runner right now, which is anything happening? Is this worth it at all? Because I don't see any progress. But if you focus on your long-term progress and the end goal, which is probably a long time from now, being able to retire with millions of dollars, then you'll have the opportunity to actually see progress. I think something that really helps with this is to actually track your progress, whether that's a running spreadsheet like of course I use, or if you can track your net worth over time, because what you're going to end up seeing is the effect of compound interest. Yeah, in the beginning, you're just plodding along and not that much is happening. And then all of a sudden you start making these big jumps year over year over year until your net worth might be increasing by $200,000 a year, $300,000 a year. And now you're making massive, amazing progress because your money is replicating itself. And number 4 is a classic running mistake, which is sprinting versus going too slow. Now, beginning marathoners and beginning runners of all types, almost all of us start too fast. We run our easy runs too fast. We start a race too fast and we fizzle out. We can't maintain that level of pace. And I see a lot of people with their money investing in a similar way. Like I talked to a guy at work 2 years ago and he was like, you ever heard of that Dogecoin? My son is investing in this Dogecoin. So, I'm not really an investor, but I put $1,000 in it and he says it's really going to go up a lot in value. So hopefully that works out. And maybe what he didn't realize was it wasn't just that he was starting investing fairly late in life or starting investing with, compared to his age and his retirement age, a relatively small amount of money. No. He was starting with an incredibly risky investment. He was speculating on the value of a crypto coin that doesn't really have a lot of intrinsic or underlying value and just hoping that it goes up, hoping that it's popular and talked about in the news and people like it and all of a sudden it goes up in value, and then hoping he magically knows the exact right time to sell out of it, make enough profit to where it's worthwhile, but not cut out too early to where then it had a bunch of headroom left. He wants to time it perfectly. This is a crazy amount of luck that he's hoping and counting on. And it's actually a super aggressive way to invest. It would be like if you went out every day and just sprinted for your workout. Maybe you'll get in shape, but almost for sure you're going to hurt yourself. All your joints and ligaments and muscles are going to be stressed way too much too fast. You're not ready for it. This is very extreme. The running version of this is to start extremely slow, do boring stuff like go on walks. Maybe you run a minute or two, walk a minute or two, do that back and forth, and finally get up to the shape where your body goes, okay, I know what we're doing now. I've strengthened our joints and our ligaments and our foot muscles and everything that we need to be runners. So we can actually properly run now. The financial equivalent of that is probably just having a little bit of a foundation of money before you start investing. And then once you invest, do things reasonably, index funds, ETFs, things that aren't too crazy. And to continue with the running metaphors, recovery is essential. Whenever you're a runner or whenever you're starting to run, you've got to give yourself adequate time to rest after you've done something difficult. And in investing, kind of a similar way to prevent overextending yourself is to have an emergency fund. So financially, that prevents you from having to tap into your 401k and take a loan against it. It prevents you from having to dip into your IRA to pay for that unexplained, crazy thing that happened with your house. An emergency fund is this foundational insulator between you and disaster that keeps your investments where they need to be, which is invested in growing. Recovery as a runner is what maintains all that work that you've done. It keeps the muscle growth and the cardiovascular growth happening the way you want it to, instead of getting injured and then losing all of that because you're not training anymore. Number 6 sounds obvious, but I don't think anybody really does it, which is following a proven plan. Marathon training plans exist because they work. I'm not a special athlete. I'm not a special investor. I'm right in the middle of every possible average, and that means that I need to just follow an already established path. What that also means is if there's a path that's telling us which way to go, then every other way around there is probably a mistake that we need to avoid. It's going to be a pitfall for our money. It's going to lead to injury when it comes to running. And so it's lame, but we just need to follow what everyone else is doing because they're doing it for a reason. When it comes to running, I think one of the biggest issues is we probably overtrain, which means we start going too hard too fast. Our body's not ready for it. We get injured, and I've been there and done that. So I run too fast. I keep running over and over. I get myself hurt or I get myself burned out, and then I stop running for a while and I lose all my fitness, and then I start over again. It's a huge waste of time. People do this all the time similarly with your investment strategies or with your money strategies, that you save up some money for a while and then you spend it. Then you never give it a chance to accumulate and become something. Or similarly with your money, if you're not investing in diversified things like index funds and ETFs and stuff that spreads out your money, then maybe you pick a stock, you invest $1,000 in it, it goes to 0 or it goes to, 200 or something. You pick a different one. You invest in it for a while, you lose some money, you pick a different one, and you're continually resetting that clock like I am with my fitness. It's a huge waste of time. Don't do that. Follow the proven path instead. Then number 7, I hinted at this before, which is track your progress. Marathon runners track their miles and their times and how they feel about stuff. We should also be tracking our net worth. For me, your net worth is the one number that indicates how you're doing overall financially. If it's going up year over year, probably doing something right. If it goes down year over year, you're for sure doing something wrong. And so it's a really easy indicator. For runners, typically the more running volume your body can absorb and not get hurt, the faster you're going to be, the more volume you can do in a race, like maybe the longer race you can do. But if we're not tracking our progress, if we're not tracking our net worth, if we have no idea where we stand, we're just going out there and trying stuff, well, we can't expect good results then. What gets measured and tracked gets improved. Speaking of improving, number 8 is something that I've been working on, but haven't quite mastered, which is the power of community. For me, back in the day, well, in high school, of course, we had a lot of community and people around our running team because I was a track athlete back then. But also a few years ago, we had run clubs we'd go and be a part of. And that was really awesome. They provide support, accountability, competition. It's just invigorating to be around other people. And I think the same can be said for finances. I know my comment section isn't the best place to hang out and meet people. But at the same time, at least we're all here watching these videos trying to get better, trying to learn, remembering these true things and trying to think about silly ways like marathon running to drill them into our head in a new way so we remember it whenever the temptation comes to spend all of our money on burritos and race cars instead of putting it in a tax advantage account or something like that. So maybe it's not my comment section, but maybe it's in real life. You can find other people who are like-minded, who want to be investors, who want to be doing the right thing with their money and tracking their net worth and learning about this stuff. Maybe they'll read a book with you or something else. If you can find somebody to do this with, it makes it a lot easier. Number 9 is the last thing I learned, and I think this is the overarching theme for both running and for money for me, and that's mindset matters. For one thing, this is a mental toughness game. It's crucial for completing a marathon, and it's crucial for staying invested during market downturns or periods of instability in your life or whatever. We want to panic and pull the plug. And so if you can have the fortitude to not do that, if you can think clearly in a crazy situation, then it's going to pay off hugely in the end. For me, with this marathon that I struggled through, this death march, where, I mean, honestly, the first 5 miles felt okay, and everything after that just got worse until halfway through. I was walking a ton in huge amounts of pain. 20 miles in, it was like I have never in my life felt pain like this during a run. I felt pain like this from time to time whenever I've broken a bone, but otherwise I haven't just felt sustained pain like that ever. And I don't think I'm the toughest person in the world, but I just decided I'm going to try and finish this race today. I'm going to cover the distance. So I'm going to walk a lot. I'm going to run whenever I can. Then I'm going to walk some more and we're going to get it done. It's going to happen. And it's amazing how much you can acclimate to that level of discomfort. And so the thing that I think is the biggest takeaway that I got from running this marathon is that you can suffer a lot more than you think you can and keep going, and that we are a lot tougher than we even realize. Our bodies are so much more capable than we realize because every day we don't really challenge them. We just hang out on the couch and watch Netflix and whatever. And I think generally that's a good path. We don't need to be pushing ourselves to the limit every day. But when it comes time to actually push ourselves, whether it's a workout or a race or something crazy that happens, we normally stop extremely early. And so it was a huge unlock for me to go, oh, wow, it's incredible that you can just keep going. When it feels like the wheels have fallen off and your legs are made of nothing but pain, they can keep going. And I think the only parallel that I can draw with investing in a similar way is that through my own experience, you can survive a much lower lifestyle than society or your peers want you to believe that you can, especially as you start to go up in the ranks at work, you start to go up in terms of what kind of income you're making. Everybody around you, consciously and subconsciously, is pressuring you to buy a nicer house and a nicer car and nicer clothes and go on trips and do all of this stuff that just absorbs all that income away from you. And then now you're left with nothing. You've got some memories and some clothes and you've got nothing else to show for it. And for you to genuinely be okay with buying a cheaper house and a cheaper car than anybody around you, year after year after year, watching them buy nicer stuff and bigger houses and better cars and nicer clothes and go on trips and do all of this stuff, you've got to have some real mental fortitude. You've got to decide that your plan to be financially free is more important than their desire to have cool stuff, because in 10 years from now, or even 20 years from now, those roles might be drastically flipped. It's not a contest. I'm not trying to compare myself and say that you're going to win and they're going to lose long term, because I don't want anybody to lose long term. But the odds are, if you've got a similar starting point and a similar end goal in mind, and you're the one that's saving and investing today instead of spending all the money like they are, in 10 years, you should be a lot happier with your financial situation than they are. And in 20 years, it's going to be drastic how much better off you are than they are. For us, the last 15 years, it has sometimes been pretty difficult to say, we're going to drive the oldest car in all of our friend group or all of our family. We're going to have the cheapest house out of anybody who makes any kind of money similar to ours. We're going to have the cheapest house out of all of our siblings or all of our peers. And I think the only consolation I can have for that is to say, I know where that money went. It's not like I just spent it on something else frivolous instead of the house. Not that a house is frivolous, but I could have just wasted it on cool stuff like gadgets and whatnot. Why do I have 2 mouses here? I've wasted some money. And I think the only consolation I have for those kind of moments is to remember that we know where our money has gone. We can track it in our spreadsheets and our account balances, and we can forecast out what that's going to mean for the rest of our lives, because getting the money into an investment account as early as possible is what saves us in the long run. Having this big nest egg that's just piling up money on itself year after year after year, even if we don't invest for the rest of our lives, means that we have done the work that's necessary to get the result that we want. Runners have a term for this. They say, the hay is in the barn. It means you've done all the right training and all the right nutrition and all the right things up until race day. And there's really nothing else you can do to prepare. You've done everything. The preparation is inbuilt into your body at that point, and you're ready to go. And I expect that's how we're going to feel when it comes time to think about retirement in our 50s, which is we've known the hay has been in the barn since our early to mid 30s. We've done the hard work. We've committed to having less so that in the long run, we can have more financial security and more financial options then. You can probably spend less than you think you can. You can probably invest more than you feel comfortable with right now. And if you can push through that level of discomfort, then you can really see clearly that the struggle is worth it in the end.